Welcome to Builds with Blocks, a show centered around the micro action figures and brick-based construction sets of the Halo universe. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, and I'm joined by Tom Fishenden.
What's up?
Matt Salvatore.
How we doing, guys?
That was a pause. That's right, because there is one more, a very special guest. We're joined by Brickman117, also known, first name Chris. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, guys.
Over the past year and a half, Brickman117 has captured the attention and delighted fans of Halo Mega Constructs, and likely all building and collecting enthusiasts. The stuff he's put out there is fantastic. He has sets, set reviews, time-lapse builds, mock videos. I just watched your tour of your studio before the show, so lots of good stuff on that channel, and it's been awesome seeing the work that you've been producing over the last year and a half. So thanks so much. We're really excited to have you on the show. Before we jump in, we're going to go around the horn, though, as we always do. Just talk about what we've been doing on the building front. We've talked about Matt and his stop motion, and Tom and his reviews and photography. Now we have a mock expert on the show. This is going to be a lot of fun. So let's see, honors. Chris, do you want to have the honors? Or you want to wait till last? What you've been up to?
I'll let you guys go first.
Okay, sounds good. Tom, what have you been doing on the building front?
Okay, so on the building front, I was able to get my hands on a set that I've wanted for a long time, that I kind of have been really, really looking forward to, and that is Snowbound. So
nice.
Obviously Halo 3 multiplayer map.
Yeah.
The Snowbound set itself is one of the Covenant structures, and I'm just really, really kind of all about those structural builds because we don't get them enough. So anytime I can get my hands on them, I'm really, really excited to have them.
Do you have the base as well, or just Snowbound?
I don't know. I've just got the structure itself. I never got the base plate, but I do have some of the older gen base plates. Like I've got Battlescape 3 and Battlescape 1.
Nice.
So I could potentially put it onto them and see what it looks like on them. But my kind of plan for it, and I've got this photograph in my head, is I'm going to set it up so it's behind my 2 Tyrant AA turrets from Reach. And I'm going to kind of make like a really cool looking Covenant firebase. So that is hopefully going to be a photo. It's going to pop up at some point. But yeah, had a lot of fun putting together that set and actually really, really enjoyed the build of it.
So most of your photos are like up close. Do you take many wide shot photography, or is that just too hard to get that setting right?
It all depends, to be honest. So it's quite hard because obviously when you're shooting something that's a lot smaller, perspective is a lot more important.
Yeah.
So with all of my Jurassic figures and things like that, I can get away with being a little bit more creative with environments because obviously they're bigger toys. But when it comes to Mega Constructs, I have to be really specific with the backdrops I use. So I have been able to get a couple of kind of vehicle photos. Like, I don't know if you saw the one I released a couple of weeks back with the 2 Warthogs. But I have been able to get some things like that. It's just kind of continuing to try and figure out a way to do that. It doesn't quite break the illusion that the photos are going for.
One thing that I'm sure you're conscious about is, because I know you're in the garden taking pictures, is like making sure that the blades of grass don't look like mutant flora.
Oh yeah.
So how do you combat that?
It's interesting. So I've kind of got like a few spots in my garden that are my go-to spots. So we have a little patch of land right by our back gate that's got like loads of dirt and then some ferns growing through it. So I kind of use that for foresty photos. Then there's a bit down the back of our garden that's right next to a big evergreen hedge that's kind of like all loads of mud tracks and things like that underneath the trees. So I use that for like the Combat Evolved swamp pics that I'll be releasing soon. Kind of like any muddy scenery. And then anything else I kind of try and find. It sounds really weird, but I look for patches of grass where the grass is like dried out, because then you still get the cool effect with it. But obviously you've not got like really, really long blades of grass that stand out. But then, I mean, even then, it all comes down to perspective and getting good angles. Because sometimes you can shoot in grass, but if you get the angle just right, it's not that off-putting. So
Sure.
it's kind of always trying to make the best of what's available and come up with new creative ways to use the spaces that I've got access to.
Very cool. Anything else you've been up to you want to mention?
No, I think that's enough talking from me.
All right, Matt, sir. I've seen some stop motion videos of yours. Some have been posted. Anything else you've been doing?
I have. Actually, I've been working a little bit more on stop motion. Recently, I was able to put on the Podcast Evolve's First Strike review. And so I was listening to that as I was taking some pictures and stuff
I
like that.
haven't listened yet. How is it?
It was good. It was very good. It's exactly how I remember the book. Very hard to follow. If I remember reading it right.
There's
so I've been doing
on that one.
I know, right? Time travel in Halo. Maybe we'll see some in Infinite. It'll be the end game moment we all wanted.
Yeah. Right.
So I've been doing a little more stop motion. I've been building some different sets design, and I've been working a little more with some lava. So hopefully that kind of ties in a little more with what I've been doing. Okay. And that's actually pretty much all I've been really doing on the construction front. I haven't picked up any new sets. I did have a nightmare with my Let Valere, so I finally opened Let.
Yeah, right.
And to my
the ongoing saga.
I know, the ongoing saga. It's a tragedy now. It's no longer a comedy.
Oh no.
So I picked up Let, and I was really excited. So I took a picture, and I know I shared that with you guys on the chat. And so I didn't open him for a while because I had got to some stuff, and I finally got back to him, and I opened him up. And as soon as I opened the packaging, his hat popped off, and I realized that the hat had been broken and the piece was in his head. So I completely freaked, and because I'm like, oh my gosh, the head's off. And so I got some. So I actually have a couple of Mega Construct figures that are broken. So I just kind of put some glue on it and I put it together. And so I put the glue on and I put the hat on, and everything was fine. And he was drying. And then I turned him around, and he didn't have his back armor plate.
Oh my God.
So
jeez.
I thought, okay, maybe I opened the package, and because I saw the hat flip off, I totally lost where the back piece went. Maybe the back piece fell off. And so I tore apart my room looking for it. I couldn't find it.
That's
and so
worst.
I remember I sent you guys that picture and said, can you see if his back piece is on there? Because I wanted to see if he was still there. And it wasn't. So, I mean, so obviously I opened it up, and I should have looked in the back, but so I ended up pulling the Banished Covenant figure that you get in the Banished Banshee, and I swapped the backs. I put the back on. So I have a complete Let with a broken hat. So helmet.
Man.
So it was very disappointing. I didn't cry.
You should contact customer service and see if they can do anything for you.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I'm okay with having pieces that are broken and with a little bit of glue, because I've done it so well that I can't even tell that there's glue on there. So, yeah, no, I probably will contact them.
Awesome.
That's
too bad.
That's been the ongoing saga of the Let Valere. It ended in a tragedy.
I'm so sorry to hear that. So I'm going to toss it to Chris. Have you had much experience with fixing stuff? You're going through so many pieces. I've seen, most of your videos. You have so much stuff in your collection. Is super glue a thing in your life?
Not yet. There's usually a fixed one somewhere, or an unbroken one that I can just use. So I don't throw anything away. All the pieces or figures that are broken, I just put them all in a pile to deal with another day and potentially repair in the future.
Okay, I have one of the lots, and I'll go. I want to hear what you've been up to, but one of the lots that I've gone through has had a dog has chewed into the piece.
Oh no!
And so, do you save even ruined pieces, or do you toss those?
No, if it's beyond repair, then it will be thrown.
Yeah. I think I was keeping it just to catalog. Okay, this is the one that's missing, because I was trying to build everything back up. Anyway, Chris, why don't you tell us about what you've been up to? Yeah, we're super interested to hear. We've seen your latest mock video up.
Which was fantastic.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
glassing of New
Really cool
Mombasa.
work.
Anything else you're working on?
So those two are the most recent. The first of all, the Shadow of Intent mock, and then off the back of that, the diorama of the New Mombasa, which was a lot of fun, but a bit of a distraction really, because I'd already started building the ultimate longsword.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was viewer request maybe from the channel that prompted me to attempt to build the Shadow of Intent, because I didn't think I'd be able to do it. So I was trying to prove to myself that I couldn't, and then I did. So I was quite pleased with the result. But that's out of my system now. So now I'm back onto the longsword. I've shot a few scenes so far for the part 3.
Okay.
So hopefully I should get part 3 finished next week to release next Friday, I would imagine.
Very nice. So have you been buying any sets? Is it anything that like boxes that have been sitting around that you've been going through, or is it all focused on production right now?
It's all focused on production, but part of production is finding the pieces in the boxes that I haven't unpacked yet. So the most recent, I didn't do a loft haul or an eBay haul, but I did a figure haul recently.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which was from 2 recent eBay hauls. And when I was looking for parts just the last couple of days for the longsword, I opened up a box and found bags and bags of figures in there that I'd forgotten were in there. So yeah, it's there's a lot of sorting left to do. As much as when you watch the studio video, I like to keep it organized. There's still masses of stuff that hasn't been sorted yet. So every time I start a new build, it's really time consuming getting what I need to build. So there's been a bit of both really, a bit of sorting and a bit of building, but I've got most of what I need. The silver and the dark grey for the longsword, I already had a huge amount sorted. So it's only if I run out of something, I dive into the random boxes to then start pulling apart wraiths and God knows what else I can find that's the right color.
Right. I want to get back to that sorting question kind of when we go in more into kind of your, to the actual interview. So I'll go really quick and then we'll dive into more from Chris. So I've actually been pretty busy lately. I finally built the Battle on the Ark Master Chief, that model. The full, it's like almost, I don't know, 10 inches tall, the figure. It's gorgeous. It's amazing build, lots of fun. So if you have it, build it finally. If you haven't picked it up yet, grab it. It's worth it. It's a really cool piece to have. So that's been cool. I finally built a couple more. I've been preparing for our Warthog show that's going to happen eventually. So I finally built my Arctic Warthog that was released with like 2016, 2017, right around there. And the Warthog Run. I hadn't built either of those yet. So those are complete. They got those wide tires. It's got this wide base on it, and it's got the kind of the tubing that acts as the shocks for the wheels, which is new. I hadn't built one like that before. So that was interesting. I didn't really like it to start with, but I now that I sat on a little bit, I played with it a little bit more. I do like it. I'm just worried that those tubes are gonna maybe break down over time. So we will see. A couple other things that I've been doing. I picked up the Arbiter versus Master Chief set. I went into Walmart. I think I sent some pics to you guys as I was
jealous
hunting.
So jealous.
So I have that, and we'll probably go into more thoughts on that. But the figures are pretty great. Good color application, some scuffing on Master Chief's armor. Arbiter looks fantastic. I haven't had a chance actually to open it right before we got on the call, so I haven't had a chance to stare at it too much or compare him to the other Arbiters. But all good. The weapons are really cool, so definitely a cool set to check out. I also picked up, because I've been doing the Masters of the Universe set, so I picked up the He-Man versus Beast-Man set as well. Let's see here. What else? Oh, I did pick up. This is an aside, and I don't know. I've mentioned the only reason I mentioned this is because I mentioned that chess set that I'm working on for for Halo. I have the Flood figures for a set, and I have Banished and Marines and everything else. But I did pick up there's a Lego Iconic chess set. I picked that up, and it's pretty sweet. I haven't built it yet, but I have plans to build that with my oldest, my 6-year-old, and hopefully teach him a little chess. I think that'll be fun.
Nice. Good game.
Yeah, it's great. Love me some chess. All right, let's get into Brickman. He's joined us. He set aside some time for us. He has this channel that he's been building over the last, year and a half or so. Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about it? And I don't know if you mentioned this on your videos or anything that you have posted to the studio tour. I don't remember, but what is your history with Halo? Like, are you a longtime fan? Did you join more recently, like I have? Like what's your background on the Halo front?
Mainly from the games. When Combat Evolved first released, I picked up an Xbox, and that game just fell in love with it and never looked back. It's always been in my life in some way. Sometimes more intensely than others. Obviously, when a game release comes out, I've never really been into the multiplayer side of Halo, so there's a lot of stuff you can miss a lot of stuff if you don't get involved with the multiplayer. But the campaign, it's always been about the campaign for me personally, and I read the books. I love all of the novels, so I've been watching your interviews with the writers of those books, which are fantastic, by the way. So good job there. Very interesting to hear their thoughts on the books that you've read many times. So that was enjoyable. And aside from that, it's I think you guys are probably definitely a bit more in the know than I am. But the whole mega construct side of it was just something that I enjoyed once I got into it, just as a sort of creative outlet. But it was also sort of a memorabilia side to it as well.
Yeah.
Just the collection. I really liked the thought of being able to collect all these things. So yeah, that's it for me, really.
So you've been playing the games for a long time. So you played through all of the campaigns. You pay attention to the story. You look forward to the story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the main reason. I'm not a big multiplayer guy. I'll pop in and mess around with it, but I don't focus on it either. So I'm on the same page as there. And then this is a lore channel, so it's perfect that you're more into the lore, more into the campaign stuff. That's great to hear. So are you a big Master Chief guy? Are you like, what's your favorite why Halo for you? Is it the science fiction aspect of it? Is it fighting alien stuff? Like what's the draw to Halo for you?
Definitely a lot to do with the Chief, and I think it's because for a lot of people that are into Halo now, they were born after it started, or especially multiplayer gamers, or didn't catch the first one, they moved back to the first one after later ones. But if you're older, as I am, and you were of an age when Halo first came out, it was really big. It was massive compared to anything you would have been playing on previously on consoles. So it was, we all know it was groundbreaking, but if you weren't there, I don't think you fully appreciate how groundbreaking it was for a console game. And to me, that I was so consumed by how impressive the campaign was. It just really struck a chord with me. And then once I moved on to the books and saw how much deeper the story was than just what you get from Combat Evolved, because you don't really get a great deal about who the Chief is or anything like that. But then when you start reading the books, especially The Fall of Reach, it just blows it wide open. And to me, it's just so deep. And if you only play the games, I don't think anybody really realizes how deep the Halo universe is.
That's true. Yeah, you got to get in that lore. There's lots there. And if even and I've read the books and I've absorbed almost everything, but I again, I probably mentioned this on our mission debrief episodes. I don't retain it all, so there's just a lot of information. So
there is a lot.
I'll make mistakes. I'll listen back to our episodes and I'll make mistakes referencing certain things, and it's just because there's so much, right? But that's the cool thing about the universe. There is so much, and they've done a great job of making it so you can really immerse yourself into the universe.
Yeah.
Especially so with the sets, right? So you were, I guess, how did you get into building originally? Were you a Lego guy growing up, and then you started to enjoy what you saw from Mega Bloks, or was it the reverse where you were more of just a Halo fan and you saw these as little models that you could have in your home?
It was complete accident, really. As a kid, I loved Lego,
Mhm.
and then when I grew up and started having children, most kids like Lego, so my children had Lego, and
Mhm.
that was semi interest there. And then it would have been when Series One of Mega Bloks was out. My wife bought me the Rocket Hog, the original one, the white one with the
Oh.
ghost, which I believe is Series One, as a Christmas present. And until
Uh-huh.
that point, when I unwrapped it, I had no idea what it was. I'd never heard of Mega Bloks before. I wasn't buying Lego at the time. She just knew I was a Halo fan, saw it on Amazon, so she bought it. And to be honest with you, I didn't build it. I just went, okay, that's not really sure what that's for, but it's
Uh-huh.
Halo, so I just put it to the side. And it was probably months, maybe 6 months before, I don't know, it must have been a rainy weekend. I thought, oh, might as well open it up. And I don't think I appreciated until I opened it up
Yeah.
how brick based it was, because it looked so much like a Warthog. It was so accurate. To me, it wasn't Lego. It was just something that I was going to stick 5 or 6 pieces together and end up with a Warthog. So when I actually
Mhm.
built it and realized how brick based it was, I was super impressed by how detailed it was and how well they'd managed to pull off the look of the Warthog, and then the Ghost as well that comes with that set, and then the figures. As soon as I saw the figures and saw how detailed they were, and this is the original figures, not the super
Right.
articulated ones. These are
Right.
the really basic ones, but
Mm-hmm.
they were still. I was so impressed by the detail of the little Spartans that come with that set, and then the elite as well. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, I started looking on Amazon every now and then, and if something came up and it looked like it was on sale for a really good price, and back then you could get Mega Block sets for really good prices off
Yep.
Amazon.
For
No on
sure.
giveaway. Sets would come out for £80 and they'd be on sale through Amazon for £25, £30, and I'd just
Yep.
start buying them, and that's where it started really from there.
Oh, interesting. So then you just started collecting, and then I've seen your
Mm.
loft haul videos. So you just collecting them and shoving them in a closet, kind of like what I'm doing right now?
Yeah,
Um,
it was probably at least 8 years before I built another set. eight
really?
years
No,
of eight
whoa.
years
Whoa.
8 years of buying
That's
before
wild.
I built another one. That Warthog actually um, got packed away back in the box, all nicely put back in the loft, where it had
Uh-huh.
come from before I built it. And then I started buying them and just adding them to that box whenever they were at a good deal. But it wasn't, once a week. Sometimes it would be 6 months I wouldn't buy anything. And then if something came up, I'd buy 2 or 3 sets and just keep stockpiling them. But in regards to building, I didn't have the time. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't have the time to build anything. There wasn't a lot of room around the house at the time. The children were really young still, so
Yeah.
everything would have been. It's very difficult to pull toys out in front of children and not let them play with
That's my life right now. Yep.
them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
all about
yeah,
this. So wait, I'm trying to figure out which one it is. Is it the white rocket hog? Is
yeah,
it that one?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that one came out just after the first wave when the Pelican came out as well. I'm sure
Okay.
that they were they came out basically in it wasn't like the second wave because it wasn't full sets. They kind of just did that and the Pelican as add-ons to the first lot and then slowly started building them up from there. And I
Mm.
remember, and I don't know if you ever got to pick this one up, Chris, but they then redid that Warthog as an updated set in the red versus blue line, and it just came with a couple of Spartans, and they rejigged the build to be a slightly more modern version of the Warthog. I think it was kind of more like the Halo Reach style, because I remember that was in Argos for a very long time.
Yeah. So amazing as it sounds, I don't have that set. There's quite a few sets I don't have,
Oh,
but
interesting.
I've
Okay.
never seen that set for sale. Well, I don't know, maybe on eBay, but not for a price that I would have paid for it.
Yeah.
So now I don't have it, and it's never come in all of those loft hauls that you've seen. That the hundreds of sets that I've received, I've never received one in a loft haul.
Oh wow.
So I
That's
don't know
quite
if they're
interesting.
rare.
Yeah, it's possible. It's like all those sets, like I remember way back when I was kind of collecting and all of that sort of red versus blue line came out here in the UK. They were all the kind of sets that were, I think they were exclusive to Argos, but they never really sold that well. So you could get like Snowbound for £15 back in the day, which I really, really wish in retrospect I had picked up, because obviously I've just paid a lot more than that for it. But it's interesting hearing it from your perspective, because obviously I think Colin and Matt, for you guys especially, you've always been able to get a hold of this stuff. But for us in the UK, it was kind of a case of one day it was all out there really cheap and accessible, and the next day it just almost vanished overnight.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's
Yeah,
it's actually worse for me than for you, Tom, because I'm not actually in the UK.
What?
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Yeah,
What?
I'm not in the UK. I won't disclose where I am, but there is there is none, and there never has been any retail outlets where I live that sell
really?
anything like that. So everything where I live has to be bought online
Yeah.
on
Wow.
Amazon or eBay.
That's a
So
Well,
challenge,
yeah,
man.
that's kind of where we
I've
are
never
at
seen it
now.
in a shop.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was gonna say that's kind of where we're at now with
Yeah.
our situation. Yeah, there's hardly
That's
anywhere. I just go on Amazon now. That's the only place I can go to find anything now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, this is cool. So it's fun to get your background. So do you have a favorite then? I don't think you mentioned if there was a favorite set, Chris.
There's still limited sets that I've built. Most of the sets that I've built, I've released videos for on my channel. So it's really still only a handful of sets. But I think as a finished result, the set I've been most impressed with as a display piece is actually the Spirit
Yes.
dropship.
Yeah.
On its stand, it's kind of its snow stand there on its side, and what it comes with so many figures, and the way all the doors open and everything. I don't know, have any of you guys built it?
I haven't built mine yet. No, I have it. It's tucked away, but I just from seeing the pictures, it looks like an amazing display piece.
It is, and you can pick it. It's so solid and it's so well built. Obviously, from my perspective, where I like to free build and try and create something myself, when I'm building a set that is actually built by the professionals, a lot of my time is focused on how they've done it, how they put it together, and how they've made it strong enough to be a viable set. But what they did with that set, I was really impressed with. It's so accurate to what you see in game. It's really impressive, and it's a big ship as well. When it's on display, it's got a big presence.
That's yeah. I'm excited to open mine up. That's really good to hear. I'm curious because you mentioned that you tinker a lot. I mean, that's a lot of your channel. Where did that interest come from? Do you have an engineering background, or do you just kind of like to mess around with sets, or is there a creative side of you that this is enabling you to have an outlet? Like, talk about where you had the initial set and you didn't really build it for a long time, and then you just collected. Was this always kind of building up, saying like, did you have ideas, or when you finally got to it, did you just decide, okay, I'm going to just do my own stuff versus build what Mega has created for me?
Originally, I just wanted to try and collect everything that Mega had produced because I was so
Yeah.
impressed with it. And for a long time, I didn't have any of the Pelicans. And then I started getting the Pelican Gunships in loft halls, and I couldn't resist. That was one time I got a box with about, well, 2 or 3 boxes probably, with I think it was something like 28 sets in as a loft haul, and it had loads of cool stuff in it. And in there was a Pelican amongst loads of other things, but it was all mixed up. And as anyone that's bought a loft haul or something like that, trying to find the pieces in 20 odd sets worth just takes it's pretty soul destroying at some point.
Yes.
But I managed to complete this Pelican gunship. I'd not built one before. I actually had one that I bought years ago for £30 off Amazon, which was an absolute bargain, and that's the sort of bargains I'm talking about. But I never built it. It's still in my collection as an unopened box set. But when I built that, that's what really started getting my mind. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Imagine if you could build a really big one. And that's where the seed was planted as to, okay, well, if I wanted to build a big one of these, I'd need a lot more of these sets. And that's where I started just collecting as many second-hand collections as I can, not necessarily for what the complete sets were there, but for the parts.
Yeah.
But in anticipation of what I would build, without really knowing 100% what I was going to build at the time.
But where does that come from? Where does that desire come from? When you were into Lego when you were younger, did you do like your own cities, or did when you got a little older, do you build your own stuff? Are you a DIY guy? Like, where does that desire come from?
I'd say it comes from a little bit of a problem I've got, where anything I do, I have to do bigger and better than anything else that I've seen.
Okay.
I don't know. To me, I think I watch a lot of YouTube videos related to Star Wars Lego, and there is just so many videos out there of, I'm sure, do they call it the massive Star Destroyers? Is it Intimidator or something like that? I can't remember what they call it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's got an interior. It's huge, this thing. And there's all sorts of huge Star Wars mocks, but whenever I was trying to find stuff in relation to Halo Mega Blocks, there wasn't really a great deal of it out there. There was no one creating anything huge scale. So I thought, I wonder if I can do this. And when I started building that Pelican, I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Right.
That was definitely bit off more than I could chew. I mean, I know I got it finished, but I think it was the pressure of YouTube that made me see it through to the end. I couldn't let people down, couldn't leave it half finished.
Well, we're very glad
quite addictive. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's cool.
Definitely.
That's super interesting to kind of hear how you've your background and how you got into it. I'm curious now, let's kind of start about the YouTube channel. How did you decide to get that started? What was the inspiration to finally, put what you're doing as your hobby in your home, what you've been collecting out there for the world to enjoy and follow along?
I think it was one of the main channels I was watching at the time was Jangbricks, because he was just doing every review for all the Mega Blocks. So he used to be really heavy into it. Lately, he seems not as keen, and I'm guessing it may be something to do with view count, because he never seems to get as many views on those videos as he does on his other ones. So maybe it's just for his time. It's not good enough value for money. But I must have watched every one of his videos at least once with my children, and we used to love watching them.
Yeah, they're
great.
great.
I was watching them thinking, I'd love to do that. And then the other channel that used to do Mega Blocks it's just a speed build channel, All New Bricks or something like that. And they used to do stop motion speed builds like they do with all their Lego stuff, but for Mega Blocks as well. But again, they stopped doing Mega Blocks too. And when I was watching these sets build themselves with no hands, I just thought, that looks brilliant. I've got to do that. I want to know how to do that. And that's what spawned the idea of, okay, I want to do it. But then it was years later that I actually finally got around to saying, right, okay, I'm going to find out what you have to do, because I'd never run a YouTube channel before of any form. So wasn't really very clued up with anything there. So I had to learn everything of what I had to do. So I basically learned on the go, just set it up.
Did you ask anybody, or did you just kind of do your own research? And as YouTube has a bunch of resources, I know that.
Close to home, I kept it secret. It was a bit of a, I just wanted to do it to see how it went. Didn't really want anyone to know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I didn't really ask anyone more than that. Everything of what I needed to know, I just read up on the internet, watched tutorials of how to do basic videos, lighting, and how to do basic stop motion and so on like that. And everything I do is basic. There's definitely nothing fancy about what I do. I just think it's the content that makes it go further than it could, basically.
For sure.
I actually want to jump in and say something here that I didn't get the chance to say on our call when we were catching up and organising this. And actually, part of the reason why I've really stepped back into the mega construct scene myself after taking a break from it, and I've kind of started doing videos here on Podcast Evolved, was because of your videos, Chris. Because I remember, I think I was searching for. It was a review on one of the newer sets. It might have been the Frost Raven at the time. And I was kind of going through, and obviously I was used to seeing Jangbrix's reviews pop up because, like you say, he used to always do them. But I saw one of your videos pop up with obviously your proper studio setup and everything. And I just remember thinking, this is really cool. There's somebody else who's still into this and is still out there putting loads of really good Halo content together and just getting out there for people who are still enjoying it. And that was actually a big part of what then pushed me into doing this with these guys and getting back into it. So I think, obviously, you say it's just the content, but I definitely think there is a lot of quality there as well that is inspiring other people, whether you realize it or not.
Most
That's very kind
definitely.
of you to say. I do appreciate that. It's funny you say that because when you ask about why I set the channel up, that is another reason, because the content generally seemed to dry up. I thought there must still be lots of people out there that want to see this. And it was an experiment to myself. If I was to try and reproduce, reviews to the best of my ability and try this stop motion stuff as well, it will be interesting to see if there are still people. And to be honest with you, I would say the last 12 months have proven there's definitely people that enjoy Halo and mega constructs enough. In fact, I think it quenched quite a lot of people's thirst for a lack of content. And I think that, again, has been a big key factor to the channel's growth. Just simply, there's not a lot of other people out there doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
definitely.
you're doing it well too. I mean, your production value, I think, is fantastic. You yourself, your personality, I think, the way you talk on the video, you're genuine and you have a good way of just connecting with the viewer. So
Your awesome accent.
well, for us, right?
For us, yeah.
We all just sound like that here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been great, and I do remember finding, because I was starting to get into Meg Constructs about a year and a half ago, probably right around when you started, and I remember finding your video, probably after you posted one of your first couple videos. And so just seeing like, oh, he's just got a couple hundred views, but like if he keeps this up, because you had been dumping all of your hauls out onto the video and saying, here's all the stuff, and you were talking about the plans that you had, like, this is gonna be good. So it's been fun to follow. And it's also, I think you mentioned that there's Halo, the community and the Mega Constructs, Mega Blocks community that has picked up on what you're doing. But I also feel like you've got to be inspired some other people, just people that are interested in brick-based sets, like Lego people and all that sort of stuff. I would imagine your videos are making the rounds.
Yeah, I think so. I read all the comments I try to. I read every original comment, but when people comment off the back of comments, you don't always get notified, so it can be you lose track of some. But generally, I try to read all the comments and at least acknowledge most of them. But there's definitely been, over the last 6 months, more and more people reluctantly tipping their hat to the mocks or the channel, that are happy to openly confess, I'm more of a Lego man, to be honest, but fair play, it's a nice mock.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
I do. But it shouldn't, but in some respects it goes further than just the general comments of the Mega Constructs fans, because you are pulling in an audience that generally wouldn't necessarily want to be recognized as watching those kind of videos.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a big audience out there that, I talk about, I think I mentioned maybe on one of our episodes, is like this is like a niche of a niche, right? Where Halo is a niche, and then this built brick-based stuff is a niche. And, I think tapping into just kind of this sensibility and what you're doing is kind of broadening that niche out to the people that are big into just mocks and Lego and just enjoying what you're producing out there. So I think it's fantastic. I'm curious, because I'm a family man myself, what is your wife and family, were they involved at all? Did you Did you, you know, consult with your wife, or were you kind of doing it on the side and like already, and they said, hey, I'm going to do this? How did that go?
My wife tends to support me in anything I do. If I say I want to do something, she'll believe that I'll do it and I'll do it well. So I don't tend to waste time or money. If I'm saying I'm going to do something, she knows I'm going to commit to it. So I do get the support there.
That's great.
The kids, they think it's great in respect of, you know, daddy plays with toys.
Right.
Daddy doesn't always let them play with the toys as much as they'd like to. So there's that win-lose scenario. They do come up to the studio if the studio is at my place of work. So if I need to take care of the kids in working hours for some reason, if my wife's got an appointment, they'll come up and they'll sort of busy themselves tearing everything apart over the space of 2 hours, creating havoc. But they are pretty good. They understand why everything's sorted. They know it's a channel. They know that, you know, I need everything where it needs to be. So they're pretty good at putting it all back again. But I do try to give them free rein to build what they want, which is quite interesting. All sorts of strange things, which they want me to never take apart again.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I know all about that. So I want to talk about the channel, like the name and like the music for the channel. Like, can you talk about did that process? I mean, you said you're a Master Chief fan, so you have that nod to him. How did you come up with the name?
So I've got a bit of experience running business. I run a business I have done for the last 11 years, so I know a bit about brand and things like that. And even though I went into it with just let's see what it will do, I know what consistency is with everything. So I wanted to make sure I got my name right from the word go and not start and then want to change my name or anything. So I gave it a lot of thought about what I wanted to do, and I wanted it to be something that people would remember and associate with what I'm doing. So to be honest with you, I'm glad. I've not had any regrets, and I'm quite pleased with the you know, the fact that it's now becoming known. People, you know, use that term, that name in comments and things on the video. So in regards to the name, it was just a case of trying to bring an attachment to what I was doing for people to find me easier. In regards to music and things like that, again, I wanted to try and have consistency like you guys do. It's very professional what you do with all these podcasts. So you always start the same way, end the same way, and so on. That's why I have my intro music and my outro music to try and always give a start and a finish. So yeah, that's basically what I did there. But all of that I picked up from watching many YouTube videos on how to start a YouTube channel.
Yep, makes sense. So
took the advice really.
I'm sure it's all like rights free and stuff like that. Did it take a long time to pick out the intro music, or was it just a tune that you were drawn to?
So that intro music was one that it's from the YouTube studio maker, so it's on the license free music, so you can use it.
Yep.
And it's actually called The Big Conference. That piece of music that you hear at the beginning, at the end. And the reason I chose that one was because I felt it was really upbeat. It just booms in as soon as the video starts. And even after all this time, I'm sure others would possibly disagree, but it doesn't bother me. It feels like, no, that's my theme song. So it's it's there, and it doesn't go on too long to offend anyone, but it's upbeat enough to kind of get the video going on the right note. That was the intention with that song.
Yeah, very nice. And then I just watched which one did I watch? You have some different music kind of interspersed. So I would imagine it's all from the YouTube studio, but you've done a good job of
everything.
Yeah. You've done a good job of picking stuff that kind of matches with the tone of the videos and everything. So it's been, very good job there. Do you guys have any other questions about the YouTube stuff? I want to go into kind of like the mock stuff and talk about how your process for doing that. I want to learn about the time lapse stuff. I think that's amazing to me, and Matt probably may have some questions on that. But Tom or Matt, do you have any other questions on just kind of like the YouTube channel that Brickman has pulled together?
I would actually probably not. My interest is definitely in the mocks. I think those are fascinating.
Yeah, I was going to say mine's the same. I just think it's quite nice hearing about how obviously you used your business experience to then build your brand and everything. Because I work in marketing for a day job, so for me, I'm just sat here like, cool, I like how you've done that, but that's the only thing I've got to say on that.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about these mocks, like the videos. So it's a broad term, but you know, the Pelican, that thing is a beast, and the current project, the long sword. Talk about kind of the process that you go through on the front end. Actually, I wanted to talk about this first because I would imagine it starts with the bricks. Like, how do you sort through all of those bricks? You buy, you know, I've seen all the loft halls, and you just kind of dump everything out. And I know from firsthand experience, I just finally moved on a big haul that I had shared with a local collector to his house now, so it's he can work on it. But there's a lot of work when you have all those bricks. How do you sort through everything?
Painfully at home. So what I'll do is when I know I need something, I'll bring a box of, say, unsorted loft haul, or not. Loft haul would have been sorted as it was packed, so I'd know what was there. But the eBay hauls where you don't really know what you've got, I'll bring a box of that home. If it's dusty, I'll just put it in batches through the washing machine, and then basically I just start sorting it all out into colours. If I want to try and rebuild sets from them, which I quite often do, I quite like to know what I've got. So I'll quite often actually rebuild them into sets. And if it's something I don't have, I'll put it into a clear bag and I pack it away in a box so I know I've got that set, and I won't touch it. But if it's something that I've got, say, 6 or 7 sets of, I might still bag it up. For example, Phantoms. I think I've got 5 or 6 Phantoms.
Whoa.
But I've bagged them all up. Some of them, I think I've got 3 in boxes used. I've got no brand new ones, unfortunately, but 3 in boxes and then 3 or 4 in bags. And they're all there because I've got an idea for a video with lots of Phantoms. So I haven't touched them and I won't use the pieces from them. But if it's something that I'm not that bothered about, for example, Wraiths, I love the Wraiths, but they've got lots of amazing pieces in them for building mocks. So, a lot of Wraiths got taken apart for the grey blocks in them, to build the Pelican, even though the Pelican is, mainly green. But when it was sorting stuff for the Pelican, I would just buy rhinos and pelicans off eBay, get them home. If they weren't dusty, I would just strip them, and then you've probably seen they all get sorted into trays, and it's just incredibly time consuming. But yeah, it is as simple as that. Just sort every last piece out so it goes in its own little box, its own organizer, and then I know where they are. And when it comes to building, you can just build then.
Yeah, right. I mean, so you have everything organized, and then you know where all the pieces are, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
they're all
right now when I'm building the longsword, I've been up a couple of nights this week. I generally, if work's busy, I've got to work in the day. I'll go up to back to where I work in the evening to work on the longsword. So I'll set myself up with the camera and everything, and then I've got 2 towers worth of trays of just grey and silver parts, and then 2 miniature drawer assemblies on the desk, and then 4 screw divider organizer toolbox thingies that I'll put out on the desk. Now that's everything that I'm likely to use, and then as I need them, I just pull them all out. So it starts off nice and neat, and I've just got the plan out on the desk. And then by the end of the night, there's just boxes and bits everywhere.
Yeah,
And
right.
when it gets too chaotic to make sense of, I then tidy it back up, put them all back, and then start again for the next scene that I'm shooting.
Does your family help you at all with the sorting?
Sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
If they're really bored.
If they're really bored.
Yeah.
So I want to rewind to, you said you put everything into the washing machine? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with that idea?
I saw it on a YouTube video. One of the Beyond the Bricks videos. They went to a brick store somewhere where they sell second-hand sets mainly. I can't remember where it was, but it really, really big Lego shop. And they showed on there that they wash all their bricks in, it's actually a kit bag. I swim, so where I keep all my swim float and fins and things like that, it's in a fine mesh bag. So I just use that, I chuck a load in there with some detergent, put it on like a quick spin cycle, 30 minutes for some detergent, comes out absolutely spotless.
Wow,
That's
amazing.
awesome.
I would have never thought about that, and it doesn't damage anything. It's all fine.
I've not seen anything come out damaged yet. I mean, I've had a few damaged pieces, but I'm pretty confident they were eBay hauls. I think they were damaged before they went in, but generally 99.9% doesn't get damaged. And amazingly, it doesn't really scratch. There's a couple of colors that are a bit more susceptible to scratching, but generally it doesn't scuff them all up or anything.
That's what I'd be worried about, the smooth pieces, like looking at your Shadow of Intent, like the domed pieces.
Do you use hot? I'm sorry, do you use hot or cold water with that?
30 degrees.
That's
okay,
hot,
okay,
I
nice.
think, right?
So yeah, not really hot, but not cold either.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you.
The
transclear pieces, like the domes that you're talking about, I've watched a few of those, and I couldn't believe how well they came out. It's like they're just brand new out of the box, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's the pieces. Now let's talk about these plans, because I'm super interested in. Do you just tinker? So you pick a project, right? And the Pelican was the first big project, and I think you used kind of community feedback on the next one, or no, wait, maybe you said that you wanted to do the longsword separate from the community.
Yeah, the longsword was for me. The Pelican was for me too. I'm greedy, selfish. So the Pelican was something that I'd wanted to do from the beginning. It was the first. In fact, no, it wasn't the first build. The first build was the Ultimate Assault on High Ground, which was the first thing I wanted to do, because I loved that set, and I'd never played the multiplayer game, so I was intrigued as to why it was called Assault on High Ground. So when I Googled it and looked at all the pictures and watched a few YouTube videos, I just thought, wow, that's amazing. Imagine if you could build one that big. Yeah. So I then started collecting high ground sets and put that together. And absolutely, I still love that mock. It's still set up and I've still got plans. I've got the pieces and the plans in my head for phase 3 of that to make it bigger, which I'm really looking forward to. And Tom will like this one. Off the back of that, my next mock after the Pelican was actually intended to be snowbound. When you look at the multiplayer map, it's actually 2 towers, but the intention is to build the towers about 3 feet high each, or not. If that's too big, I won't build them that high. But when you look at them in the actual game, they're way bigger than the set that Mega released. So that was the intention to do there. But I did the Pelican, and then the reason I didn't do the snowbound mock was because everybody was crying out for a Phantom mock, an Ultimate Phantom. And I knew if I used the pieces, a lot of that purple on a snowbound mock, I'd probably run out of pieces for a Phantom. So I decided not to do that. But in the end, I went with the longsword anyway. So those pieces are now just still sat there waiting for a later date. Right. So in terms of plans, there was no plans for the Pelican. It was literally go online, look at pictures, and then put pieces together until they made the right shape. Put them together, take them apart, put them together.
Wow.
That is impressive. So how do you handle scale? How do you figure out, like, if you know what I mean? Like, how do you scale it so that everything you want to kind of line up on size with the pieces that you have?
That was really hard. What I started with was, I've said it in the overview video, was once I saw the Halo Infinite trailer, the Hope trailer, I just wanted to create that troop bay. I was like, I've got to try and build that. So I started that was phase 1 with the Pelican, built the troop bay. Once I built the troop bay, the length of that was governed by how much the space the seats took up, 5 on either side. So I couldn't reduce the size of it. So therefore, I then had to scale everything else to that. So what I then did was I got some outline pictures off the internet saying how big the Pelican was. And then I just basically measured it. So I looked at, you can get some side-on pictures that show the troop bay in terms of a side-on view. So I could measure the troop bay and then measure the section of the Pelican in front of it and behind it, then measure what I had, which would work out roughly how long it had to be. And so what I would do is I'd constantly sort of measure how far I'm likely to go. So you see after I do the troop bay, I'll start building the cockpit and the armoury. So what I would do is I would lay the floor down first, so I know I'm right. I can't go any further forward than that. So I've got to try and make all the rest of the angles tie in to make the proportions look right and the angles look right when they cut back into the troop bay, which is really hard when all you've got is a troop bay. And then you do the cockpit and you've got no wings, which you don't know how you're going to build or attach yet. And you don't know how you're going to build the roof or the tail or the engines. And you're just kind of hoping that you'll be able to figure it out when you get there.
So were you taking it apart? Like, did you build it and then once you said, oh, I gotta get the wings on here somehow. Did you have to take things apart to then, so you could attach the wings, or how did that work?
Not a lot. When you see the videos of the troop bay and the cockpit, you'll see there's holes. I left sections unbuilt at the front of the troop bay because I knew that I'd have to attach them in that area, so I left them. So there was a very small amount of removing and putting stuff back on, but nothing, not a great deal. It was basically what you see in the speed build videos, where it's just time lapsed. That is everything I did. You see everything that I did to build that. So you'll see me take the odd bit apart, put it back on, and that's it. It's literally in my head, look at a picture and just build, and I filmed it. So
That's great.
yeah, it was just, I think I was fortunate that it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah.
That takes an unbelievable amount of technique and skill. That's amazing.
Just all in your brain.
Just like I've always like, if you try to build something, for me, it always ends up where one side, like it doesn't proportionally like connect right. So you like, oh, I got the troop bay, and then I'd be like, well, the cockpit doesn't seem to be fitting too well.
Yeah, I'm just terrified to build anything.
I know.
Yeah, it was definitely my biggest fear that I was going to get to the end of it and it wasn't going to look anything like a Pelican. or running out of pieces forever. That was the other fear. There was a lot of pauses during that build. You know, sometimes there would be 2 months, I think, between a segment or a phase, and it was simply because it took me that long for parts to show up on eBay that I could then buy to sort to carry on with the build.
I could imagine.
So I wanted to ask, because obviously the longsword's your current project, and we were speaking earlier a little bit about how you got into Halo. Was a big inspiration in why you wanted to do the longsword the fact that it's so prevalent in Combat Evolved with that ending? Like, did that encourage you to go away and do that?
Yeah, I mean, straight away, that was, such a cool ship. It's amazing looking aircraft. And when you look at some of the designs online, which look like somebody's recreated it, a couple of companies for a fan film they were trying to do. They've created some amazingly detailed images of the longsword, and it, you can believe that would be a real aircraft. And whilst there are lots of vehicles that I will probably make in the future, there's something about that made me so now I've got to build it now. Again, I've got to get things out of my system, otherwise I won't be able to really engage with another build.
Yeah. And I get that. It's kind of having that idea, and once you got it in your head, you want to realize it, don't you?
Yeah, and once I committed to that, it was one of the hardest parts with doing these mocks is getting started, because they're so big. Where do I start? And if you start wrong, you'll end wrong. So you've really got to think about what you're going to do first. And thankfully, with the longsword, somebody was kind enough to supply those plans that I'm using as a base to loosely go to. I don't know how well I'll be able to keep to them, but that's a huge help over the way I built the Pelican, especially with the longsword being so flat. You're dealing with one, it's just one big flat wing, really, and the fuselage is relatively simple in comparison to the Pelican.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I'm quite excited to see how you're going to do things like obviously the bit just behind the cockpit where I think you can see like attack readout in one of the games. I think it's Combat Evolved actually, as Chief walks through the cockpit, you kind of see all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to see what you do with the interior of that more so than anything. I think that's going to be really cool.
What I'm doing at the moment is I'm pillaging every set I have for monitors, printed tiles, and anything that I can use to resemble all of the monitors and the screens and everything in that bit.
Nice.
To be honest with you, the bit I'm most excited about with creating that longsword is the cockpit and the seating area and that screen in front of it. If I do that right, it will be really impressive, which is what I'm working on at the moment. Amongst other things, I'm just finishing off that front section as what you've seen so far. I'm about halfway through it, so hopefully a couple of good sessions next week, and I might be able to get a video out for next weekend.
Do you set timelines for yourself to like, okay, I need to finish this by X date or anything like that? Are you just kind of doing it as you go? Are there plans in place? How does that work out?
Yeah, there are, and I'm terrible at sticking to them because I've got a day job. So whilst we were all on lockdown and I had not a lot to do, I was able to work almost every day on the channel, which is why I was able to release videos every maybe 3-4 days maximum. Under normal circumstances, it's difficult for me to even release a video once a week, but there's a lot of time spent not putting the video together. Yeah, at the moment it's a bit challenging because work is quite busy, so it's difficult getting enough time there. But I basically, even if you don't see a video, you might not see a video for 2 weeks, but I'll more than likely still have spent at least 3 nights a week working on that video.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, and it's amazing how time flies, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you picked up, and I think with Lego Masters was over in the UK. I think there's a version, but I just watched the recent one, and the time that they give these people, like 12 hours, and it's like 12 hours goes really fast probably when they're working on this stuff.
Yeah, when I'm up there, once you get in the zone, you just want to keep going. If it was a Saturday, for example, I went up there, I'd probably just do 8 or 9 hours straight and be able to knock out a phase for the video in one day. But working in the evenings after a whole day's work, I generally tend to only do 2.5 hours. Because by that time I'm burnt out, and it's all, creativity is really hard. You can't just turn it on if you're in a bad mood, so I don't bother. So generally it's all about how the day's gone and so on. But quite often it's a good way to end the day too, because you can get a lot of satisfaction out of achieving something. So yeah, I do like to make an effort, even if it doesn't feel like it's the right time to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
That makes sense.
I was going to ask, so obviously going back to a moment ago where you were talking about monitors and things like that kind of made my head race, because off the top of my head I can think of a couple of Call of Duty sets that have got really good monitors. So when it comes to like picking up pieces for sets, do you just try and stick to Halo, or do you broaden out into all the other kind of Mega Constructs products that are out there as well?
No, so for some strange reason, I only seem to be able to buy Mega Constructs or Mega Bloks Halo sets, and I don't know why, because there's so much more diversity if I was to just buy anything. But for some reason, I won't mix Lego in with any of my mocks, and it's not because I don't like Lego. I collect Lego too, but I won't mix it because it's just not the way my mind works. If I say I'm going to build something out of Mega Bloks or Mega Constructs, it has to be built out of that, and also the temptation to use glue or things like that. I won't use glue or anything that's not there, and I also won't cut bits down. I know it's tempting when you're trying to create a shape that just doesn't want to be created from the pieces you've got. You go, well, if I just shave that bit off there or snip a bit off of this, generally I won't do that. I don't want to get into that habit. I want to try and create something that you can create from genuine pieces. And when it comes to the Call of Duty stuff, I've actually collected quite a lot, but only because it's come in eBay hauls. And I haven't had a chance to sort it out yet. But yeah, I need to have a think about that really, because as you've said, there's a lot of good parts out there that could lend themselves very well to my mocks, but for some reason I need to make my head accept the fact that I can use Call of Duty parts in a Halo mock.
No, I get that. I mean, it's the colors, right? Like that's probably you probably wouldn't mix Lego, or if you're doing a close up, someone would read the little Lego on the stud, right? They'd be like, wait a minute. So no, I totally get that. That makes sense. But yeah, I would encourage you, if you haven't had experience with the Call of Duty stuff, grab a couple of those, because there are some good pieces, and like we just talked about the specialized pieces, the monitors and stuff like that. There might be some stuff that you can pull in and incorporate, and it's still mega. It's just not mega.
Well, it's funny actually. After my speech about not using it, I've just remembered I have bought a Call of Duty set specifically for Phase 3 of the Ultimate Assault and High Ground mod.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I will be mixing.
Cool.
So yeah, there is that, I guess.
There's a lot of good parts there once you get past that as well. I mean, for monitors, I built the Apache the other day. I think it's called like the anti-armor helicopter because they didn't license the Apache name, but it's got some really unique pieces in it where there's like a I don't know how to describe it. It's like a 2x2 tile, but then it kind of cuts down at an angle because it goes along one side of the chopper and it's got a keyboard on it. And I can just see bits like that making really, really cool consoles. So there's definitely a lot of kind of cool little bits out there.
It's worth knowing, because the biggest problem I've got with this phase that I'm doing with the longsword at the moment is I think I'm going to struggle for enough console pieces to fill the cockpit out the way I want to. But what I'll do is I'll simply finish it without the console pieces, but allow it so I can just add them in later.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I do have a few ideas. The plan is there's some quite obvious consoles above the co-pilot and pilot seat, and I'm planning on using I don't know if you've seen them, but they're like monitors in the Infinity set.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, yep.
That would work really well.
There's 3 blue clear monitors that go on just hinge pieces, basically. So I'll be using all of those, and there's some keyboard pieces in there which are really nice as well. So those will definitely go in there. Problem is, I would like a few more of them, but I don't want to have to open up one of my other Infinity sets just to get those pieces out. I won't do that. That's another thing I can't do.
Oh, I hear that.
I gotta stay glued.
I have a couple other questions. This is a great conversation, Chris, and thanks for staying up late with us. But there's a couple other questions before I kind of want to wrap. And I think, we talked about off the air is like maybe we have another one of these or something else. But I feel like we could talk for hours. So there might be a part 2 to this conversation. I want to talk about the time lapse, or the kind of you call them stop motion too. How is that process? How does that work out? I've never attempted that. It seems super interesting. I imagine there's like a shaky cam thing you have to deal with. Matt probably has some questions about that too. How does how long does it take for you to build?
Okay,
I know yeah.
So I do 2 different types. I do stop motion speed build, which is actually my favorite type of video to make, which is where I think Tom mentioned the Frost Raven build. So I stop motion speed built that, where I've just got a stop motion app on my iPhone, which is what I use for doing all of my filming. And literally you get your pieces out, you get the stop motion app going, you set the camera up and you don't move it, you make sure you don't move it, and you literally put one piece down in front of you, take a picture, next piece down, take a picture, next piece down, take a picture. So you end up with, if it's a 2,000 piece set, you'll end up with a minimum of 2,000 shots that you string together. But when I do them, you will have noticed I tend to rotate the model as well. So I don't build the model the way the instructions say to build it. I'll build it. So I might skip 5 steps ahead because they agree with the area I'm building in. And then I also, the engines, for example, on the Frost Raven, they'll show you to build the engines on the ends of the wings on their own and then attach them. But rather than do that, I'll build them. I'll make them build themselves, or appear to be building themselves, off the end of the wing. And then rotate the blades and everything while I'm doing it. So you're adding in loads and loads of frames. So it's very complicated because you've got to remember what bits you missed and then go back. Because the reason you do that is, if you chop and change the way they do in instructions, you're constantly changing where the camera is and where you're looking, and people can't. If you're building at the back 1 minute and then the instructions tell you to build at the front, people are looking at the back while the front's building itself. So what I'll do is I'll always make sure I kind of want to, ideally you want to start building at the front and then the whole set builds its way back. Not as easy as that, but that's the concept that I'm trying to create when I do the stop motion speed builds.
Well, I appreciate that you have fun with it too. Like you'll turn the camera and then you'll like show some articulation or something like that, and then
Yeah.
continue on. I think one of your stop motion, I forget which one, like you had a figure walk in and like say hello. So yeah, it seems like you're having fun with it.
That's definitely one of the big appeals for doing that side of it. When I'm doing the time-lapse speed builds, like you saw with the Pelican, that's literally just put my iPhone on time-lapse and you set a timer, because I don't know if you know, it's weird with the iPhone. It's not the most ideal thing to do anything with, but it works. And whether you shoot for 10 minutes on time lapse or whether you shoot for an hour on time lapse, it compresses it to 30 seconds of footage. You just see less frames through that time. So if you want to see me putting lots of pieces on, you need to keep those segments short. So I'll set a timer for say 15, 20 minutes. When that goes off, I stop the time lapse and then I set the timer again and I start it again. So I get 20 minutes segments, which all add up to 30 seconds. And then when I go to edit them, if they're too fast, I slow them down in editing. And if they're too slow and it's going to drag the video out too long, I speed them up to try and keep it as interesting as I can. But you're still seeing it being built. Otherwise, you miss too many sections. If you let the time lapse go for too long, you just see, oh, huge sections just appearing.
Yeah.
Nice,
Was it a painful
nice.
process to figure that out, or did
Right.
you? Well, I would imagine there was some trial and error in figuring that out.
Yeah, wasted time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, we won't talk about that.
Once you now I'm very strict with the timing. Like what I'm doing at the moment with the longsword and filming that time lapsed, I'm very strict with my timing. And I've actually, because I'm taking viewer feedback of, sometimes the camera's too far away, so you can't actually see much. And also a lot of people prefer it when I talk through the build and explain. So what I do is I'm time lapsing a section of it. So in this phase, there'll be 4 separate time lapse sections with me talking about each one in between, just very briefly, just because that's what people tend to prefer. But so you can see more, I've reduced the time that I'm allowing the camera to time lapse for, because it gives you more flexibility, with almost to a point where it's a tutorial. Because a lot of people say, oh, can you show us how to make this? But you can't really see it in a time lapse because it skips too much. So to try and see almost every piece going down, I'm slowing it down. So yeah, I'm learning all the time and trying to change it to suit what the viewers want, basically.
That makes sense.
Now, do
I
you
think
have
that's good.
do you have some trouble with keeping your iPhone stable, or do you have ever had that moment where you've like bumped into the camera and it's changed the time lapse?
Yeah, so time lapse isn't so bad because you can move the camera in time lapse. And I've realized, at first I lived in fear of that. And then I realized if you bump it, just make it look like you meant to do it and move it really obviously. And then it just looks like you've adjusted it for a better angle. When it comes to the stop motion, you'll know, Matt, if you're doing stop motion, just never move the camera. And as you know, that makes everything hard. The whole concept of filming the time lapse for these speed builds makes it so much more long-winded and frustrating, because you've constantly got to be aware of where the camera is and where your hands are.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also you're stopping and starting timers all the time, and you're stopping and starting the phone. If you were able to just build, it would be a lot easier, but then we wouldn't be talking to each other if I didn't film it.
Right. Exactly. Cool. You just have a museum, your own museum to enjoy in your house.
Yeah.
Any other
I
questions,
dunno.
guys, before we cut? I feel like this has been a ton of fun, but Chris is probably getting tired. He's gonna get to bed soon.
Yeah.
Fine.
Um,
Any questions, guys?
I just say thanks for coming on. It's been really fun, and obviously, I think we've only really just started out doing this fairly recently, so it's really nice getting to talk to somebody who I think is doing something really unique in the community, because like you say, there's not really anyone out there who's doing big builds anymore. I mean, I can remember a while back where people used to do like I had a friend who did a big styrofoam build of Ragnarok that I'll have to dig out and show you at some point. But there's just none of that kind of stuff anymore. So it's really, really nice that you're doing that, you're pursuing it, and equally just listening to the way you were talking, the fact that you were taking into consideration viewers as well, because I think that's what it's all about. So absolutely keep doing what you're doing. I think we're all really enjoying it, and it's been great getting to learn a little bit more about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. Just to piggyback on that, I think there's a lot of the stuff that you're doing just is so mind blowing right now. Just thinking about how you're scaling everything and how the sets that you choose. And I agree with Tom, how you focus on the listeners is also very excellent. I did have a question. I think I was going to ask, what sets would you like to see coming out in the future? If like what parts or what kind of little sets that haven't been built, or maybe like a redesign, would you like to kind of see Mega Construct come out with?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Definitely, the Covenant Assault Carrier. I'd love to see Mega do, like the Shadow of Intent that I built. I'd love to see Mega produce something as a signature set, a big one. Really spend some time on it, and maybe even create some new pieces on it pieces for it, especially to get that absolutely perfect result. I use the canopy from the. I slipped my mind now. What did I use the canopy from, guys?
So the Banshee?
No, not the Banshee. The bigger one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The Locust?
The one from Reach?
Yeah.
The Spirit.
No, the Saber. No, not the Saber.
Saber.
Oh, no.
The Seraph.
Seraph, there it is.
Boom. I got it.
Yeah, the Seraph. Yeah, Seraph. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it is late. Yeah, so it'd be good if they produced something that looks better than that for the front of a ship. They could do. Definitely like to see them do that. Also, would really like them to reproduce a Phantom. Definitely, they could do. They could do a better job with the Phantom now. I think with their new parts inventory. And then the only other sets that I really would like them to do is they've got to release a blister back. Is from from Halo Wars. That thing just looks amazing, and also the Wraith. I don't know if they call them something different. Do they call it a different type of Wraith? But it's got all like
just the banished Wraith.
Yeah, the blades on the front of it just makes it look amazing. So if they produce those two sets, I think they would be really impressive. So I'd like to see those. Yeah, definitely.
They did a miniature Hot Wheels version of that. If you've seen that, it's pretty rad.
They did a what? Sorry.
A little Hot Wheels version of that.
Oh, really?
Mattel. Yeah. So
no, I've not seen it.
Yeah, look that up online. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a great conversation. Hopefully we have more of these. Again, we could talk for hours, I feel like. This has been a lot of fun. Anything else you want to talk about from your channel before we wrap up? Lots more longsword stuff. Anything else you want to hint at?
Yeah, I think that's it really. Most people know the deal. Just stay tuned for all of the latest videos, and I'll just keep building as long as people keep watching. And yeah, thanks to everybody that does watch, and thanks to you guys for having me on, because it's a great show. I really appreciate it.
Definitely. It was amazing having you on. Lots of insightful comments.
Great. I'll be happy to come back sometime, guys.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. That will do it for our show. Thanks for joining Builds with Blocks with special guest Brickman117. If you like the show, feel free to support Podcast Evolved on Patreon. Until next time, evolved.
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 Chris.
Evolved.
Yes.